What would you do in a situation where everywhere you look, bombs are falling, people scream, houses collapse, and you have nowhere to go? This happened to the citizens of Rotterdam on 14th of May, 1940. This is the story of an undermanned and undersupplied army who stood up against the Germans for 5 days, and how the Nazis reacted with the bombardment of an entire city. From the beginning of the war, the Dutch sought to remain neutral, as they had during World War I. They attempted several times to act as intermediaries and reach a negotiated peace settlement between the Allies and Nazi Germany, but these efforts were in vain. The Germans needed Dutch territory to launch attacks on France and the United Kingdom, and to prevent the British from gaining a foothold in the Netherlands. On May 10, 1940, German paratroopers landed in Rotterdam south, marking the start of the Second World War in the Netherlands. The Dutch and Germans engaged in a 5-day battle, with the Dutch putting up a valiant defense using mostly outdated military equipment, such as 39 armored cars and 5 tankettes, and an air force consisting mostly of old biplanes. The Dutch army was at a disadvantage against our German attackers. Most of the artillery used by the Dutch were old-fashioned cannons, and even these were mostly horse-drawn. The Dutch infantry was also ill-equipped, with many weapons dating back to the First World War or even earlier. Furthermore, the Dutch army was poorly trained. Despite these challenges, the Dutch managed to resist the German attack for 5 days, which is truly remarkable. The bombing of Rotterdam was initially scheduled for May 13th, but was postponed due to low clouds. On May 14th at around 10:30 am, General Rudolf Smith issued an ultimatum to the Dutch commander Colonel Scharrow. The ultimatum was as follows.
To the commander of Rotterdam, to the mayor, aldermen and government authorities of Rotterdam. The persistent resistance against the German army's offensive in the open city of Rotterdam forces me to take appropriate measures if this resistance is not immediately stopped. This can lead to the complete destruction of the city. As a responsible man, I ask you to do everything in your power to prevent the city from having to pay such a high price. As a sign of agreement, I ask you to send us a negotiator immediately. If no official response is received within 2 hours of the delivery of this ultimatum, I will be forced to carry out extreme destruction measures. The commander of the German troops.
The mayor of Rotterdam, Peter Oud, consulted with his aldermen and concluded that they did not have enough time to evacuate the city within the 2-hour deadline set by the Germans. Mayor Oud pleaded with Colonel Scharrow to surrender. However, Scharrow was not satisfied with the letter's authenticity, as it was not signed by anyone on the German side, and therefore refused to seriously consider surrendering. Scharrow responded with,
To the commander of the German troops, I am in receipt of your letter. Subject letter has not been duly signed and did not mention name and rank of its originator. Prior to seriously considering your proposal, the letter should be duly signed and mention your name and rank. Colonel, Commander of the Dutch troops in Rotterdam, P.W. Scharrow.
In receipt of Scharrow's letter, Smith sent a telegram to the 2nd Luftflotte stating,
Airstrike postponed due to ongoing negotiations. Return to standby status.
The second signed ultimatum was delivered to the Dutch negotiators by General Smith, while the sound of aircraft engines was heard overhead. The bombers were ready to attack. As a precautionary measure, red flares were arranged to be shot into the sky by the Germans. If the bombers saw the red flares, they were to turn back. However, the telegram was received by the 2nd Luftflotte at 12:42, but was not given to the bombers. However, there were 2 groups of bombers en route to the city. The first, consisting of 54 Heinkel HE-111s, was flying in from the northeast, while the second, smaller group, consisting of 36 HE-111s, was flying in from the south. At this point, the Germans had only taken control of the southern part of Rotterdam, so no flares were shot from the north. Furthermore, a large smoke cloud obscured the southern part of the city, making it difficult to see the flares. Despite these obstacles, the larger group continued its bombing run and devastated the city center of Rotterdam. "642 acres of the city center were destroyed. A total of 24,978 houses, 24 churches, 2,320 stores, 775 warehouses and 62 schools were destroyed, resulting in the loss of 884 civilian lives. The bombing left a lasting impact on Rotterdam. The city would never be the same. After the bombing, the Dutch surrendered to their German attackers, but were eventually liberated on May 5th, 1945. If you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing and leaving a like. If you want to know all our sources, it's down below in the description. We've left a link to our website. Oh, we have behind the scenes material on our TikTok and our Instagram. I hope you liked this video and hope to see you in the next one.